The night was quiet, yet William's heart was louder than ever. He sat on the edge of his small apartment balcony, looking at the stars that once held his dreams with Chloe, same stars that used to be their silent witnesses to laughter, promises, and endless love. But tonight those stars were cold, empty, just like him. He once believed love could fight everything. Distance, time, even fate. But he was wrong. Love wasn't enough when the world around them refused to see it. William wasn't rich. He worked long shifts at a mechanic shop during the day and delivered food at night. He lived in a simple one-room apartment, but every wall held memories of Chloe, photos, notes, a paper heart she made for him when they first met at the university library. She used to call him my sunrise because, even on her worst days, he made her smile. And she was his reason to live. Chloe came from a wealthy family. Her father owned 3 construction companies, and her mother was known in high society circles for her charity, events, and elegant lifestyle. But unlike her world of glitter and glass, Chloe was different, soft, curious, and full of warmth. She never cared about status or money. At least not in the beginning. They met when Chloe accidentally spilled coffee on William's notes in the university cafe. He smiled instead of getting angry. That one smile changed everything. She apologized 100 times, and he laughed it off, offering her his pen so she could fix the smudged pages. From that small accident, an unshakable bond began. Every evening, they would meet near the old bridge behind the campus. It was their secret place, away from people, away from judgment. There, William would talk about his dreams, and Chloe would listen with sparkling eyes. He told her he wanted to open his own auto design company one day. She told him she wanted to write books that made people feel less alone. They promised they would chase their dreams together, but life, as always, had other plans. 2 years passed. Their love grew deeper. William worked extra hours to save money for their future. He never let her spend on him, even though she offered many times. "I'll build our world with my own hands," he always said. And she believed him. One rainy evening, William arrived at Chloe's house for the first time. Her mansion stood tall and glowing, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, guards at the gate. He felt small, like he didn't belong there. But Chloe held his hand tightly, whispering, "You belong with me. Don't look at them." Her parents weren't home that night. She made him dinner, not something fancy, just noodles and tea. But it was perfect. They sat near the window, listening to rain, laughing like kids. When thunder rolled outside, she hid her face in his chest. And he kissed her forehead, promising, "No matter what happens, I'll protect you." It was one of those nights that stayed burned in his memory. Pure, fragile, eternal. But the next week changed everything. Chloe's parents returned early from a business trip and saw William leaving the house. Her father's face turned red with rage. He didn't even ask questions, just screamed, "Don't ever step into my house again." Chloe tried to explain, but her father didn't listen. He called William a mistake, a poor dreamer, a boy who will never be enough. William stayed quiet. He didn't argue. He simply looked at Chloe, eyes full of pain but still soft, and walked away. That night, Chloe cried until dawn. She called him over and over, and finally he picked up. His voice was low but steady. "Don't cry, my love. I'll fix everything. I promise you." From that moment, William decided to change his fate. He worked harder than ever, double shifts, no rest, no weekends. He began learning about business, design, finance, everything he could get his hands on. He wanted to prove himself, not just for love, but for his own worth. Chloe kept seeing him in secret. She sneaked out after midnight just to spend a few hours in his small apartment. They would sit together under dim light, holding each other, whispering dreams into the silence. She would say, "One day, when everyone knows who you are, they'll regret everything." he would smile and reply, "I don't want revenge, Chloe. I just want you." But love, when pushed against the wall, begins to break. Months passed. Chloe's parents found out about her late-night visits. Her father locked her phone, restricted her from leaving the house, and even changed her university schedule. "He'll ruin your life," her mother said. "You deserve someone equal, not someone who can barely pay rent." Every word stabbed Chloe's heart. She tried to defend William, but her parents' emotional pressure was too much. They told her stories of failed marriages, of love that dies in poverty. Slowly, their words began to fill her with fear. Meanwhile, William kept trying. He started a small design project online. One client turned into 3, then 10. He was growing, but too slowly for Chloe's father's world. One evening, Chloe came to meet him after 2 weeks of silence. Her eyes were swollen. Her hands trembled. She didn't even hug him. She just stood there and said, "William, I can't do this anymore." The words fell like knives. He froze. "What do you mean?" "My parents, they'll never accept you. They're threatening to send me abroad." "I can't fight them, William. I'm tired." Her voice cracked. "I love you, but love isn't enough." He stepped back, his breath heavy. "You promised me forever, Chloe." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Sometimes love means letting go." William shook his head slowly. "No, love means holding on when the world says no." But she didn't answer. She turned around and walked away, leaving him in the cold night rain. He didn't chase her. Not this time. He watched her go, her shadow fading into the mist, taking with her the last piece of his heart. That night, William sat on the same balcony where he once dreamed about their future. He stared at the empty street below, replaying her words again and again. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were dry. Pain so deep that tears couldn't find their way out. He whispered to himself, "They called me nothing. They took her from me. But one day, they'll see what nothing becomes." From that moment, William changed. He stopped chasing love and started chasing power. He began investing every cent he had into ideas, businesses, and opportunities. He learned fast, failed faster, but every failure made him stronger. Every scar became a reminder of what he lost. He turned silence into focus, pain into fuel. 2 years passed. William was no longer the boy who stood outside a mansion gate, rejected and humiliated. He had built his own empire, a chain of design companies, partnerships with investors, and recognition in the city's business world. Newspapers called him the man who rose from dust. But despite all his success, he never smiled the same. Because deep inside, there was still that empty space, the one shaped like Chloe. She, meanwhile, had moved on, or at least pretended to. Her parents took her abroad, and she lived in luxury. Yet some nights, when she closed her eyes, she still saw his face, his tired eyes, his broken smile in the rain. Destiny, however, never forgets the broken. One fine morning, William received an email. It was from a company looking for a potential merger, owned by none other than Chloe's family. His lips curved into a cold, knowing smile. "So fate brings them back to me," he murmured. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the skyline. "They took everything I loved," he whispered. "Now, I'll take everything they have." And for the first time in years, his heart felt alive again, not with love, but with purpose. The real story was about to begin. Morning sunlight sliced through the tall glass windows of William's new office. Everything around him screamed success: the polished floors, the imported furniture, the silent respect of his employees. Yet beneath that calm exterior, a storm was waiting. He sat in his leather chair, holding the merger proposal in his hand. The company name printed at the top made his jaw tighten. Harrington Builders, owned by Chloe's father. He could almost hear that man's voice again, the same words that once crushed him. "A poor dreamer like you will never touch my daughter again." William smiled, not the warm kind, but one sharp enough to cut glass. "Let's see, Mr. Harrington," he whispered. "How it feels when a poor dreamer buys your dream." He pressed the intercom button. "Elena, set up a meeting with Harrington Builders next week. Tell them William Cross wants to discuss the merger in person." His secretary hesitated. "Sir, Harrington Builders? They're a big name." "I know," he said coldly. "That's why I want them." As he hung up, his mind raced back to Chloe. Did she still live under that mansion's shadow? Did she still think of him? He wasn't sure. But one thing was certain. Fate was finally handing him the knife. A week later, the conference room was filled with quiet tension. The Harrington team entered first, suited men, expensive watches, arrogant eyes. William stood at the head of the table, calm, unreadable. Then she walked in. Chloe. For a moment, time stopped. She hadn't changed much, same graceful walk, same eyes that once looked at him like he was her entire world. But now, there was something else in them, guilt. She froze the second their eyes met. Her breath caught. Her fingers trembled slightly, hidden under the folder she carried. William didn't move. He just looked at her, emotionless. "Mr. Cross," Mr. Harrington said, stepping forward with a fake smile. "It's an honor. We've heard a lot about your rise." William shook his hand firmly. "I'm sure you have." Their handshake lasted a second too long. Two men, one silent war. As everyone sat, William's attention stayed locked on Chloe. She couldn't meet his eyes. Her father kept talking about numbers, business strategies, and future profits. But William heard none of it. All he heard was her silence. Finally, her father said, "My daughter will be assisting me through this process. She manages our internal finances now." William nodded slowly. "Good. I prefer to work directly with people I know." Chloe's head lifted slightly, her eyes finally meeting his. Her heartbeat raced. She wanted to say something, anything, but his expression was unreadable. The meeting went on for hours. William played his role perfectly. Polite, professional, charming even. But inside, every word was a move on his silent chessboard. When it ended, everyone began leaving. Everyone except Chloe. She stood still, holding her folder close. "William," she finally whispered. He stopped at the door, but didn't turn. "Mr. Cross," he corrected coldly. Her throat tightened. "I didn't know this was your company." He looked over his shoulder, eyes cold. "Then I guess surprises run in the family." Her eyes filled with moisture. "Please don't be like this." "Like what?" he asked, stepping closer. "Honest?" She lowered her gaze. "I never wanted things to end that way." William let out a bitter laugh. "You ended it yourself, Chloe. You walked away." "I had no choice," she said, her voice breaking. "They forced me." "There's always a choice," he said quietly. "You just chose the easier one." He walked past her without another word, leaving her standing alone in silence. That night, Chloe sat in her room, unable to sleep. She kept seeing his face, the fire in his eyes, the pain behind his calm. The man she once loved was still there, but buried under layers of ice. She reached for her old diary, the one she hadn't touched in years. Inside were pictures, dried petals, and a note written by him. "One day, when they laugh at me, I'll still choose you." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered into the dark. Meanwhile, William stood on his balcony, watching the city lights. He held a glass of whiskey, but didn't drink it. He didn't drink anymore. Success was his only intoxication now. He replayed the meeting in his head. Her face, her trembling hands, her tears. Part of him still felt something, a dull ache buried under pride. But he crushed it. She made her choice, he told himself. Now it's my turn. He started working through the night, planning every step. His goal wasn't just business, it was personal. He would make her father beg. He would make Chloe witness it all. 2 weeks later, William visited the Harrington estate for a private discussion. As he entered the same mansion that once threw him out, every corner whispered old memories. The chandelier. The marble staircase. The same hallway where Chloe had kissed him goodbye years ago. Her father welcomed him with forced politeness. "You've done well for yourself, William. It's Mr. Cross." William replied calmly. The older man smirked. "You've learned confidence." "I like that." "No," William said softly. "I learned self-respect." They talked business for hours, but every proposal from William had a trap, small clauses, hidden terms, slow poison that would eventually give him control of everything Harrington owned. And Chloe, sitting quietly beside her father, noticed it. After the meeting, she followed William outside. "You're trying to destroy him," she said in a trembling voice. William turned, his expression unreadable. "No, I'm just giving him what he gave me, consequences." "Please don't do this," she pleaded. "You're not like him." He stepped closer, voice low. "You think I'm doing this for fun? You watched him call me worthless. You watched me walk away bleeding. And now you expect me to forgive?" Her eyes filled again. "I loved you, William." He leaned in slightly. "Then why did you let me burn alone?" She had no answer. He turned away. "Don't worry, Chloe. I won't hurt you. But I'll make sure he feels what I felt, helpless." Days passed. William's company slowly took over small shares of Harrington, builders through indirect deals. Media began reporting rumors of a collapse. Investors panicked. The empire her father had built for 30 years began shaking, all because of one man he once mocked. Chloe watched helplessly as her father grew pale, stressed, sleepless. She knew exactly who was behind it. One evening, she drove to William's penthouse. When he opened the door, he looked surprised but calm. "I need to talk," she said softly. He stepped aside. "Talk." The apartment was modern, cold, perfect, like him. She walked in, feeling the distance between their worlds again. "I know what you're doing," she said. "And you're winning. But what then? Will you really be happy?" He stared at her. "Happiness is overrated. Peace is better." "Peace?" she whispered. "You think destroying us will bring peace?" He took a deep breath. "Your father took everything I had. I'm just taking it back." Tears glistened in her eyes. "You're not taking it back. You're becoming him." Her words hit him, sharp, unexpected. But he didn't show it. "Maybe that's what it takes to survive in your world." She shook her head, tears falling freely. "You're still the man I loved, somewhere inside. Don't lose him." He looked away. "He died the day you left." She left quietly, the door clicking behind her. But her words echoed in his mind for days. Soon, the final blow came. William made a public offer that forced Harrington Builders into bankruptcy unless they sold him controlling shares. Newspapers exploded with headlines. "William Cross takes over the Harrington Empire." That same night, William stood in the same mansion hall, the one he was once thrown out of, but now as the owner. Mr. Harrington stood before him, defeated. "You've made your point. What do you want from me?" William stepped closer. "Everything. The company, the properties, and the satisfaction of watching you fall." Chloe stood in the corner, crying silently. Her father's voice broke. "Please, leave my daughter out of this." William's jaw tightened. "You already did that years ago." Then he looked at Chloe, her face pale, her eyes full of pain. For a moment, his anger flickered. But then he remembered every night he spent hungry, every insult, every tear. "This is justice," he said quietly. He signed the papers. Within minutes, the empire that once humiliated him was his. He turned to leave. But as he reached the door, Chloe's voice stopped him. "You won, William. But you lost yourself." He paused. For a moment, he almost turned back. But then his expression hardened again. "No, Chloe," he said softly. "I just became what you all taught me to be." He walked away, his footsteps echoing through the empty mansion halls. That night, as he stood on his balcony again, wind brushing his face, a strange emptiness crept in. He had everything: Power, money, revenge. But the silence felt heavier than before. He looked at the city lights, remembering the nights he waited for her message, the nights he starved but still dreamed. He had avenged himself, but something inside whispered that the real victory would have been forgiveness. Still, he told himself, she chose her world. I just gave it back to her, broken. Far away, Chloe sat by her window staring at the sky. She whispered through her tears, I wish you'd chosen love over revenge. And maybe, somewhere in the cold night air, he heard her. But he didn't answer. Not yet, because the story wasn't over. It was only changing shape from pain to power, from love to loss, from revenge to regret. And deep down, William knew, fate always comes back for unfinished hearts. In the end, William didn't just win. He erased the people who once looked down on him. The same family who once called him not enough, now bowed before his power. Their businesses were gone. Their pride was crushed. Their daughter, the girl who left him, could only watch as he became untouchable. But revenge, it's never as beautiful as it looks. It burns slow, like fire eating its own light. William took everything they had, yet deep inside, he had lost everything that once made him human. Sometimes revenge is not about hurting them. It's about showing them what they lost when they hurt you.